I'm Richard Kessler. I'm the Dean of Mannes College, the New School for Music, and I am really thrilled to be here today. We're all thrilled. We have here some good friends and colleagues. We have Kathleen Supove on piano. One of our faculty members is Kathy. And we have these wonderful colleagues and friends and partners, Sideband, here today as well. And we have a really special program for you, and I'm really excited to get to it. Let me start with some introductions. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Mannes College. We're a 100-year-old music conservatory that's part of the New School. Many of you know the New School as Parsons, or some of you know the New School as the New School for Social Research. We're the music conservatory at the New School. And we have three different divisions. We have a college division where we give out degrees, all kinds of degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, diplomas, certificates. We also have a preparatory division where we have students from the ages of 4 to 18 years old who invade the school on Saturday and take over every single space you could possibly imagine, making music in every possible way. And we also have an extension division, which is for continuing ed, where adults come and learn and engage in music. It's also a place where we provide all kinds of courses, all kinds of classwork, and there's all kinds of opportunities for partnership in the extension division. Let me read to you, you think I would know it by heart, but actually it's fairly new, and I've actually never read it to anyone before. I'm going to read to you our mission, actually, at Mannes, because I think it informs the day today a little bit. We're dedicated to stimulating, supporting, and advancing the creative role of music in all aspects of a rapidly changing society. Mannes seeks to develop citizen artists who engage the world around them in and through music, in traditional, emergent, and new forms of practice. And another way of looking at it is we're reinventing a very old traditional model. And old I mean old by something that's been practiced in certain ways in classical music since the 14 or 1500s. We're looking to reinvent ourselves through new music, through technology, and a commitment to community. And we have our partners here today to give you a glimpse and a sense of the kinds of things we're embarking on. Sideband is a tremendous model in terms of how you use technology to make music and engage with people. It's interesting in terms of its performance quality, it's interesting in terms of its research, and I think it's interesting in terms of it being a model for engaging people in all sorts of new ways. Now, before we go on with Sideband and Kathleen Supove, let me first say thanks to the Google organizers. Kate Clugston and her team, Melissa Carroll, John Clemente and his team, Lee Stimmel, Phil Ames. Thank you very much for making today possible. Now, I'd also like to say there's all sorts of opportunities to partner with us, to engage with us in what we're doing today. We're looking for friends, we're looking for supporters, we're looking for help. And if you're interested in working with us, working with Sideband, working with Kathy, please contact Kate Clugston. She'd be the point person within Google to do that. Okay, so now, it's nice to move on from hearing myself talk and instead move right to the music. So we're going to move to Sideband, and they have two pieces that they're going to play for you, back to back. The first piece they're going to play, and after they perform, they're going to introduce themselves a little bit, give you history of the ensemble, background. It's going to be a good presentation, but we're starting with music. So Sideband's going to do the first piece, which is called Balls, and it's by Conrad Kaczmarek, and the second piece, which is called In Line, and it's by Yasha Narvson. And it's a 10-minute segment, and then we'll go to some questions, but let's go right to Sideband. Everyone, welcome Sideband.
My name's Dan Truman. I am one of the founders of the Princeton Laptop Orchestra, which we started in 2005. I started it with Perry Cook, professor of computer science there. I'm a professor in the composition department, music department. And Sideband, these wonderful musicians here, this is the professional outgrowth of the student group that is the Princeton Laptop Orchestra. And the aim of the Princeton Laptop Orchestra is this is back in 2005, we wanted to see, can we figure out how to make music together with computers? Up to that point, classes in electronic music were always taught in a studio, and you work alone, and then you make some fixed product that you share with people. But the notion of actually making music together and finding out what we can do with computation in music-making context really didn't happen much at that time. And so that was the aim here, and that's what we're still working on. Two pieces there. The first one, affectionately referred to as Conrad's Balls, was done by Conrad Kaczmarek over there, and you saw there, yeah. And one of the fun things about that is sort of exploring a system that you can sort of set things loose in and see how they behave and see what kind of sounds they make. And then you saw at the end, when they turn the screens around, basically the network is used to sort of connect their system so that their animated balls can be passed from one machine to the next, and their sounds can sort of be collaboratively created. And then that was followed directly by Yasha Narvison's Inline. And there, yeah. Lots of fun things to talk about there, but the obvious thing, was using these game controllers there to try to get a more physical engagement with sound. The first piece, we sit at the laptops and type away and so on. And that's all fine and good, but it's also nice to get up and actually be physically involved with the sound. And these little game controllers here are about $15. They were made for a golf game. They come with little gloves that you attach these strings to. It's very, it's very last year. But you swing your hands with a little plastic golf club, and then a little avatar of your golf player shows up on the screen. They're fantastic music controllers. We had to go in and sort of hack them a little bit to have them work for us. But they've become pretty widely used in laptop performance around the world, really. What else should I say about that piece or the controllers, other than that they're really cool? And I wish they still made them. The other thing I'll comment on briefly are these shiny little speakers. And I think these are particularly relevant to the kinds of things that Richard was talking about, thinking about Manus in a very old conservatory focused for a long time on making music together in old-fashioned ways, something that I'm actually very drawn to. And one of the aims of these speakers here is to actually, in some way, enable us to try to make music together with computers in a kind of old-fashioned way, rather than having each laptop plugged into a mixer and all the sound coming through speakers that are separated from our bodies and really hard to associate with what we're doing ourselves. These are meant to be near us as performers, and also they're meant to fill rooms from the inside out with sound rather than sort of project it from the outside in. So these are one of the main characteristics of the Princeton Laptop Orchestra and Sideband. So is that a good enough summary here? There'll be questions later, of course, and also, if you like, you can come try our very fancy software that we've built here. All this stuff, all of these pieces, we build them ourselves. The software is all stuff that we make ourselves for each piece. And with that, I think I'll hand it over to Kathy. Are you next for doing your piece here, or is Richard going to say? Richard. Very good.
I got it. Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. It's it's a really interesting thing when you think about taking this new technology, new approaches, and bringing it into a school that's primarily been working in really old modalities. What happens in terms of culture shock? What happens in terms of people trying to wrap their head around the technology, around the meaning in terms of the practice? How do you make music with new technologies? Can you take the very old practice and basically wet it and have it live inside something like this? And that's ultimately what we're trying to do based on the model of sideband and what Dan has been explaining to you. Anyway, my job for the moment is to introduce Kathy Supove. Kathy's one of our favorite faculty members at Mannes. She's someone who is expert at teaching adults, someone who's expert at teaching kids. But I've known her for many years as one of the leading pianists in terms of new music, new approaches. She's a person that composers are drawn to when composers think, who is willing to try something? Who's willing to take a risk? What pianist is interested in something new? That's Kathy. That's her reputation. That's what she's known throughout the field. She does it in an extraordinary way with a great commitment, and she's one of the leaders in the field of new music. I'm really thrilled to be able to introduce her to you right now, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about the piece that she's going to perform with Sideband. So everyone, please welcome Kathy Supove.
I'm just going to make a few short remarks. Thank you, Richard, very much. I hope I can live up to that. I am a classically trained pianist, but I ended up being a pianist that promotes, premieres, commissions, and records music by the Beethovens of today, like some of the people you see here. And it's kind of a saga how I ended up doing that. I was dissatisfied with a lot of the things about being a conventional pianist. But, one of the things that bothered me about it was it's a little bit lonely being a pianist. You're kind of in this practice room and you're with this one sound of the instrument, and it's a fabulous instrument, unequaled in my opinion, but you're kind of all by yourself. And I always used to think, what would it be like to play piano at the beach, or what would it be like to play piano in a circus, or various settings and that kind of thing. And I think that has something to do with how I ended up migrating toward creating works with composers, or collaborating with them and encouraging them to create works for piano plus something else. And today I'm going to be doing a piece that's piano plus an electronic soundtrack. And one of the things a soundtrack can do, it can sort of simulate a chamber music partner and do that kind of thing. But the other thing it can do is create an environment that you're playing in. And so, I can feel like I'm playing piano in some kind of weird, surreal, historic version of Bali or something like that. And anyway, I've found it's just been really fulfilling. The name of the piece I'm going to play is What Remains of a Rembrandt. And it's based on a pamphlet that the playwright Jean Genet put out. And it has some kind of very weird translation, but basically what it implies is what remains of a Rembrandt if you took away all the associations that you conventionally have with it. And the composer Randall Wolff, by the way, full disclosure, he is my husband and he could not be here today, unfortunately. But what I think he had in mind was if you took away all your kind of conventional notions of the composer Claude Debussy, what would you end up with? And so he's answered that question. And just to give away some secrets, some of the ingredients that he's used in the soundtrack that I play along with is a Debussy opera, some Vietnamese gongs, and some kind of gunshot that he has played around with electronically so you can't recognize it. And he also managed to throw in my favorite Debussy piano piece. And I hope you enjoy it. This is an excerpt. It's not the whole piece. The whole piece is too long for today. But I hope you'll enjoy it very much. Thank you. Somehow I've been drafted to introduce this next piece, but it's great because it gives me a chance to talk about Sideband a little bit. And I first heard the laptop orchestra from Princeton fairly soon after it was founded, I think, in Carnegie Hall with the American Composers Orchestra. And I immediately thought that this was a group I wanted to make music with. So it's interesting, Richard was talking to you about new ways of making music, and to me, it just seems totally natural for a pianist to want to play with a laptop orchestra. I mean, you know, it's just totally natural. Of course. I mean, they're so at the forefront in terms of what they're doing, but at the same time, very musical and appealing. So I immediately... it wasn't too long before I got in touch with Dan Truman and asked him about writing a piece for me, and it took a few years to happen, but it did finally, and it was great. And a couple of surprises came along the way. Dan wrote a fabulous piece for me, which you should all hear. It's coming out on recording eventually. I'm sure you can ask Dan when it'll be out. And but I got a couple of surprises in the middle of the project. One was that Michael Early wrote a piece for me and Sideband also called Victorian Webs, which we're going to perform today for you. And Victorian Webs is a little bit, it's kind of a tribute to the beginning of Morse code, and you'll hear some music in it that sounds I guess it is Morse code, and it sounds like Morse code, and but at the same time my part is the Victorian part, and so this person is going into the new technology but at the same time has kind of a nostalgia for the old, much the same way as the computer age has come upon us and we have nostalgia for things sometimes. But so we play different roles, and it's interesting because I always hear their part in my mind. It goes around, it's kind of in my ear all the time, and I notice them going around humming the piano part that I play. So we're kind of each other's earworms. And I also wanted to mention that Conrad Katzmarich also let me play his piece at one point, and he's a professional level pianist himself, so I really appreciate that. And we very much hope you enjoy this. Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. Hello. Hi. We're just going to introduce ourselves really quick so you know who it is making these noises. I'm Lanie Pfefferman. I am a composer. Thank you. I'm a composer. I am about to finish, hopefully, my PhD in composition at Princeton. Everyone on the stage is somehow affiliated with Princeton. I'm new to technology, but I gotta say Sideband is making me fall in love with making music combined with technology. By day I'm a math teacher. I've been singing a lot, and I love Google. I'm happy to be at Google. Here's Caroline.
Hi, I'm Caroline Shaw. I'm a violinist and singer and composer, and also at Princeton, friends of Gabe Taubman and Jen Chang who work here. You guys are awesome. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Ann Hagee. I'm also finishing up at Princeton with my degree in composition, and I'm a singer, and I'm really interested in movement and sound and that connection.
Hi, I'm Dan Iglesia, composer, media artist, programmer, co-leader of Plork for a few seasons, and member of Sideband.
Hey, I'm Yasha Narveson, former tabla player, composition major, computer programmer, electronic music type person. Also, I feel incumbent upon me to mention that Caroline Shaw won the Pulitzer Prize in composition this year, so can we just give her a hand?
Hi, I'm Conrad Kaczmarek, also a graduate composer at Princeton, finishing up. I wrote that first piece, the balls piece, so if you're interested in hearing more about that, please come up afterwards, ask me. Thanks.
Hey, I'm Jeff Snyder. I'm not playing on this piece, but I was on the first two. I'm a research scholar at Princeton, and I am a composer and improviser and also electrical engineer, so I have a company building some instruments that, if you've heard of the Snyderphonics Manta, that's me.
Sideband and Kathy, wonderful piece. I love that piece. We have about 2 minutes left in the formal program. Those who want to stay afterwards, you can come up, you can talk to the band members, you can talk to anyone they have offered for you if you want to take a look at the equipment. I think we have time probably for one question. And I also want to remind you, if you want to get involved, there's a lot of opportunities to get involved with the band, with Manis. There's all sorts of things we're doing. We're creating community choruses. We have courses that we offer. We could be teaching courses here too, if you like. But anyway, contact Kate Clugston if you want to get involved. So how about we have time for one question, and then afterwards, certainly, please come up and ask whatever questions you like. But time for one question.
Earlier you play with that game controller, with strings attached. So Microsoft Xbox has this motion controller where it uses a video camera to see how your body moves. So have you think about trying that together with the music, the pianos?
We, as an ensemble, have not tried it. I personally have developed for Connect, making instruments that use Connect to detect objects, detect people. There are certainly pros and cons with it. I, for example, love the Connect because lighting doesn't matter, just physicality and space matters. Somebody may write a piece for us that uses Connect. It's certainly a possibility in the future. We definitely like these in terms of being physically connected. These are extremely robust. There's not a lot of jitter, as there is in some IR camera systems. But yeah, we're certainly open to all manner of bizarre hardware configurations.
Great, thanks.
All right, we're at the end of our program. I just want to, let's have another round of applause for the band, for Sideband, Kathy Supove. Thank you so much.